Okay, this question is testing you on the general formula because they are asking you for a specific term. Okay, so the general formula is like this. So you are expected to remember this general formula. And then from here, you can tell that A is x power 5, B is minus 4 over x. But you do need to convert this to a little bit of indices. Okay, and then the power here is 6. So you plug in the value of A and A, B, N. So I will plug in. Okay, so just now I mentioned we need to do a little bit of indices on the expression for B. Reason being, after we insert into the general formula, we actually need to separate them. We got to separate the x from the component that doesn't have x. So for example, here the 6r doesn't have x. Here there's a power x. So you simplify using indices. So you multiply the respective power. Then this is the part where a lot of students will make mistakes. So the power r is for the whole bracket. You should assign power r for minus 4. And you should also assign power r to minus 1. And the objective after in general formula is to split the x from the non-x. So at this moment, you can see that these are the only two components with x. So you apply the same base multiplication. So in indices, we will add the power. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to add the power. And the items that doesn't have x, these are the items that doesn't have x. So the item that doesn't have x are grouped together. So this is the one that contribute the coefficient. So it can be any coefficient that I want to. And then this will be the one that, okay, so I simplify first, then I'll get a minus 6r. So the x term, the x portion is the x term that we will be using. So in this question, they wanted the term independent of x. So term independent of x is known as the coefficient of x0. Why the coefficient of x0? Because x0, according to integers, anything to the power 0 is 1. So essentially, it doesn't have x. So in this case, the power of x is 0. And if you look at your general formula, this is the power of x. So we set the power of x to 0. We can find the corresponding r. So you work out carefully. You can find r is equal to 5. What is the purpose of getting the r equal to 5? You put it back into the coefficient. So that will be the term independent of x already. So in a way, the term independent of x is like the constant term also. So sometimes they will ask you for the constant, or they will phrase it in this way, term independent of x. And then you just punch up calculator. So the general formula can be used if, let's say, they want any specific coefficient. So in this case, I can also have like a coefficient of x power 10, or it can have negative power also. So for example, if the question asks for the coefficient of, let's say, 1 over x squared, so that will be x power minus 2. So the power is minus 2. I will set the power to minus 2. So I'm just randomly giving you this calculation. So if let's say you are not getting a whole number, so in this case, I'm not getting a whole number, 16 over 3, I don't have a calculator now. So if you're not getting a whole number, that means, right, this coefficient does not exist. The condition for the general formula is r can only be a whole number. because you cannot bunch calculator, you cannot do a 6 choose fraction. You can only choose an integer on your calculator. So that's why sometimes when they ask you for explanation question, why this coefficient doesn't exist, you can also use the general formula. If the general formula lead you to a r that is not an integer, that means that coefficient doesn't exist. Okay, so generally the term independent of x is also asking you for constant. So it all boils down coefficient of x 0 and the power of x is equal to 0.